He hit the turf and the room went quiet. Not that long, but long enough to know something had changed. Aaron Rodgers, playing through a fractured left wrist, took a vicious blow from Joey Bosa early in the second half. The ball popped loose. Christian Benford scooped it up and sprinted in for the touchdown. In less than a minute, Pittsburgh's control of the game felt like it had been yanked out from under them. Reuters' Rodgers had come into this matchup trying to thread two impossible needles at once, prove he can still lead this Steelers team and show he can do it while his body is literally compromised. He was 6 of 13 for 54 yards before that hit, not vintage Aaron, but veteran enough to be dangerous. Then Bosa exploded through the pocket, and something that felt manageable became messy and urgent. The fumble return for a score swung momentum, and Mason Rudolph, the backup, had to scramble into the game plan cold. Rudolph threw an interception on the very next drive, and the Bills turned that into points too. It was the kind of two-play collapse that converts a close football game into a narrative about why margin matters. TribLive.com, there's a scene you can't unsee. Rodgers jogging to the sideline with blood on the bridge of his nose, jacket on, being patched up in the medical tent, and then coming back out with tape and a bandage. It's a visceral reminder that even legends are susceptible to the same weather, turf, and nastiness every other player is. Fans cheer toughness, teammates admire it, but there's a fine line between heroism and hazardous hustle. Do you call it courage, or do you call it risk that could cost more than the moment? The NFL rarely offers tidy ethical answers. It gives us clips and decisions and the fallout that follows. WTOP News. From a coaching and strategy angle, Rodgers' return from a fractured non-throwing wrist was already a chess move. The Steelers adapted pistol formations, quicker reads, designed plays to protect his throwing shoulder, anything to minimize his exposure while keeping his skill set on the field. That only works if the pocket holds and the protection buys the half second required. Against an elite rusher like Bosa, half seconds disappear. The result wasn't just a fumble. It was the moment that forced Pittsburgh to stop guessing and start reacting. The Bills were opportunistic and they exploited the opening. SB Nation, the stand. But this story isn't only about one sack or one fumble. It's about what happens when multiple small things stack into a pile you can't climb out of. Rodgers' hit altered the game plan. Rudolph's interception compounded the damage. Special teams and subsequent drives failed to counterpunch. Josh Allen and the Bills took over, scoring the game's final points and turning a narrow contest into a 26-7 win. For Pittsburgh, that's not just a loss. It's a 6-point swing in the division race and a reminder that top-heavy rosters don't survive without consistency at the most important position. Reuters. Here's where the emotional knot tightens. Rodgers is 41. He's a living legend. He's also new to this locker room, trying to shepherd a team that needs him to be both strategist and standard bearer. When he jogs back in with blood on his face, the image feeds into the mythology of the warrior QB, the guy who refuses to leave his troops. But as much as fans romanticize that, sports medicine and team ethics warn us about the cost, compounding injuries, altered mechanics, and the long-term human ledger that doesn't care for highlight reels. The real question isn't whether he was brave. It's whether that bravery was the best strategic choice for the team and for the man himself. The Times of India. Let's be blunt about the coaching responsibility. Mike Tomlin and the Steelers' medical staff were placed in a real, compressed ethical moment. Protect a prized veteran and playoff hopeful, or protect a human being who might pay for that decision later. In the moment, players make calls because the pulse of competition demands it. Coaches lean in because the season's playoff math punishes hesitation. But fans, analysts, and medical voices will keep asking, where do we draw the line between competitive duty and long-term care? There's no satisfying consensus. There's only trade-offs. TribLive.com. On the tape, though, there are fixable things. Protection schemes can be tightened. Shorter drop reads and quicker release concepts can blunt edge rushers. Route design can emphasize high percentage completions to protect a compromised hand and face. Special teams and short field management must stop handing opponents gifts because a veteran is learning to play limited football. These are technical, coachable items, not moral quandaries. If the Steelers want to keep Rodgers healthy enough to make a difference, The game plan has to be surgical, not romantic. Steelers Depot. And remember the human ledger off the field. Rodgers has a life beyond Sunday nights. A fractured wrist, a bloody nose, a return to practice. These aren't trivia. They're chapters in a life that includes family, post-career health, and legacy. Fans want moments. Players want both moments and tomorrows. The right call sometimes isn't the one that gets applause, it's the one that preserves the player's future. That's a hard sell in a business built on immediate theater, but it's the honest truth. WTOP News. So where does Pittsburgh go from here? First, they regroup. Fix protection, clean up situational football, and give the backup rhythm if needed. Second, they recalibrate expectations. This team is not a single-man band, and losing a step at quarterback exposes depth issues elsewhere. Finally, they have to answer the larger operational question. Do we keep pushing our veteran through risk for the chance of a short-term jolt, or do we protect the asset and build continuity? There's no neutral answer, only consequences that will show up on the scoreboard and in the locker room. SB Nation, if you want the one image that will stick with you, beyond stat sheets and headlines, it's simple. A quarterback jogging to the sideline with blood on his face, the season balanced like a coin in the air, and a crowd holding its breath. In football, that image is both the glory and the problem. It's the reason we love the game and the reason we have to debate how much of a body we're willing to risk for a win. The rest of the season will tell which choice was the right one. Here's the straight content exactly as you asked. No extra commentary. Aaron Rodgers leaves game versus Bills after being sacked bloodied. Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Aaron Rodgers has left the Week 13 matchup with the Buffalo Bills. Rodgers was sacked by Joey Bosa in the first minute of the second half, causing the ball to hit the turf and be scooped up for a score by Bills defensive back Christian Benford. On the ensuing drive, Aaron Rodgers was not on the field. Rather, Mason Rudolph came into the game and threw an interception to Benford. It is unclear if Rodgers will return, but we will provide updates when they become readily available. Should Pittsburgh lose this game, it will be on the outside looking in the AFC playoff picture. Here's the straight content exactly as you asked. No extra commentary. Aaron Rodgers leaves game versus Bills after being sacked bloodied. Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Aaron Rodgers has left the Week 13 matchup with the Buffalo Bills. Rodgers was sacked by Joey Bosa in the first minute of the second half, causing the ball to hit the turf and be scooped up for a score by Bills defensive back Christian Benford. On the ensuing drive, Aaron Rodgers was not on the field. Rather, Mason Rudolph came into the game and threw an interception to Benford. It is unclear if Rodgers will return, but we will provide updates when they become readily available. Should Pittsburgh lose this game, it will be on the outside looking in the AFC playoff picture.